Hello everyone, I'm Louie and welcome back to the Podcasters Podcast. In this episode, we are talking about everything branding, personal identity, and how you come across to the world in your podcast. So first of all, it's really important to address what is branding in general. So branding, especially when we're talking about podcasting, is all the colors, all of the shapes, all of the sounds even that make up how you appear on social media. When we talk about social media, of course, we mean lots of different platforms. So it could be YouTube, could be TikTok, could be Instagram, could be LinkedIn even. So when we're talking about a brand identity, we're taking all of those different pieces into consideration and thinking, how do we want to come across? Visual identity is really important, obviously in the podcasting space, like I mentioned, but also in the real world as well. So you've got to consider, a business or a brand has to exist in both of these spaces at the same time, both online and in the real world. And there's got to be some cohesion between those two spaces. So you might have a pre-existing brand already with colors and a logo and all of that kind of thing. Can you bring that across into the digital space? Online, things like that. And that question might sound quite simple, but it could be as complicated as, do you still have those assets that you printed out 10 years ago? Can you digitize them in some way and put them onto social media? What do you already have? Do you have a brand guide? Do you have fonts and colors and shapes and all of that laid out already? Or is this a fresh start? Do we need to start from the beginning? When people join the podcasting agency here at Progressive, we take them through a long process of just making all of these decisions. One of the first decisions that a client has to make is how they're going to appear in their logo. So the logo is something that appears obviously when you're on the episode itself, when you're searching through episodes, and it might be something that you print out and put into the real world. So think about it on banners, on posters, at events, all of these kinds of places, on screens, and that is something that we need to consider. One question that you need to ask yourself is, do you, as in your face, do you want to be on the logo yourself? Obviously, if you do want to be in the logo yourself, you need to get some photos taken. We can do that here in the studio and things like that, or you might want to get the photographer to do it. One thing that you must avoid is using any low quality like holiday photos or anything like that. Make sure that if you are going to be in your logo, that you get a professional photo taken first. The other thing to consider with that is, do you want to be the forefront of your brand? Some people say that, they want to copy people like Rob Moore and they want to be their own personal brand. Other people want to kind of hide behind the business and let the business do the speaking. Maybe you've got a podcast that's going to be hosted by multiple people and you don't want to tread on anyone's toes, or you're just not interested in it. Maybe you don't want to become a personality that's broadcast out into the world. So that's just not some people's bag sometimes. So think about that. Obviously, people who do want to be on it put themselves on the logo. Other people that don't want to be in it maybe focus on something that's a bit more typographic or the kind of graphic based, like the logo that's behind me right now. After your logo, the next thing to consider is everything else. So on different social media platforms, there's different elements. So let's take YouTube, for example. You've got the channel banner that's at the top when you go onto someone's channel. It's just a bit of graphic design that sits at the top of your channel page. Can contain things like colors, logos, pictures of you, maybe some call to actions like some social media icons, things like that. But that is something that needs to be designed. And if it's not there, it's just a blank bit. So why not use it? Other elements on YouTube include the profile picture, So obviously that's the logo that everyone sees when they see your little profile. So obviously you want that to either be of yourself or of the brand as well. Something that's really important to consider when we're considering all of these different elements, be it the banner that I just mentioned, the profile picture, the logo, all of these things, is scalability. When you're designing these things, you've got to make sure that they can be shrunk down to the smallest of icons and still be seen and clear, and then blown up to the biggest of things like the screen behind me, and again, still be clear. So you've got to make sure that whatever designs you create, they're really high quality, really high resolution, so that you can blow them up or shrink them down accordingly. That's why it's really important to get a professional to make your artwork. Some people are really tempted to go and make it on something like Canva, but then if you blow it up, it might not be good quality, or if you shrink it down, or the sheer amount of things that you might have to redesign, it's really worth getting someone proper to do the job for you. So, you want to start a podcast, but you don't know how. First of all, like and subscribe and have a look around the channel. There's lots of useful videos to help you on your way to starting, scaling, and thriving in your podcast career. Also, did you know that we run a 3-day event over here in Peterborough called the Podcast Profit System? Come join us in a room of like-minded individuals, meet the progressive team, learn how we do things, and there's a free lunch thrown in as well. All right, let's get back to the video. One other really important aspect, specifically on YouTube, is thumbnails. Thumbnails are the first thing that people will see when they're recommended one of your videos on YouTube. We have had years and years and years of training making thumbnails, and to be honest, the science behind it is always changing. Things like arrows pointing inwards, or kind of bangs and pops and pows and big text and people's faces and all of that kind of interesting stuff. You really need to have a keen eye to make it attractive so that people click on your videos in the first place. One of the key metrics we look for when we're looking at people's YouTube channels is something called click-through rate. That is simply the percentage of people that have seen the video and then clicked on it. And that percentage can range anywhere between, 4%, 10%, even higher. So it's really important that you get a good thumbnail down so that you can, attract people to click on your video. Obviously, a thumbnail can be crazy and wild, but also it still needs to align with your branding, align with the guide that you've set out for yourself, so that people know that it's you, know what they're getting into, and feel comfortable and confident clicking on it to get high quality content that you're obviously making. Another thing that we make at Progressive is intro animations and end cards and things like that. At the beginning of a video, you'll have a little intro animation. Maybe after you've done a little bit of preamble, a little bit of a lead in, you then get this really nice little logo that swoops in. You've probably seen it on things like Joe Rogan before. Obviously, that is usually a logo or something similar that we design for you, or you can design yourself, obviously. At the end of the video comes the end card. That is where all of the clickable elements of the video come onto the screen. That also needs to be designed with your branding as well. See what I mean? Branding is literally everywhere. One final place where your branding is going to be seen is on the social posts that are created. So if you're putting anything out on TikTok or Instagram, on Reels or anything like that, you will want your clips to look like you. So you might include the colors and things like that along the way. But some people choose to go no branding whatsoever, no logos, no nothing. And then it truly just relies on them and their energy to get people to, know you and understand you and get to know your brand that way. So people like Rob, for example, might put a video out where he's got the disruptive entrepreneur and it's all got the colors and things like that involved. But sometimes he just goes up and he's walking around town and we haven't edited it, for example. It's just him. People already know that it's him because it's Rob and it's the energy that he brings. So consider that. Do you need all of this branding, or do you stand on your own as a personality that can kind of carry it through? Again, it kind of goes back to, is it about you or is it about your brand and your company and things like that? So a couple of short, sharp tips to get you on your way. The first bit of advice is that your branding has got to be you. So obviously look at successful examples, look at podcasts that you enjoy. Obviously the podcasts that you enjoy are probably kind of a bit of you anyway. So look at those, draw inspiration, but then really just go with your gut feeling. So if you want to be bold and you want to have like hot pink and wild colors and things like that, go for it because it will scream you. And that's ultimately what we want from this. Otherwise, you might end up falling into a really bland category where you try to copy too many people and then you just end up with something really generic that no one will see or no one will click on. Another thing to mention is that obviously scalability is really important, like I mentioned before. So make sure, again, that all of your assets are really scalable. This includes your photos, make sure they're high resolution. And if you can do anything vector-based, if you don't know what that is, you can look that up, then it is incredibly scalable and can be put on pretty much anything without losing any resolution or quality. And the last thing I want to mention is some people are embracing this idea of anti-design. Obviously, everyone's gone really crazy with the idea of branding and design and making things really perfect and punchy and all of that. there is something to be said for going the opposite way and completely breaking the boundaries and going outside the box of what design means. That in its own way can kind of get people interested, if you know what I mean. So maybe go with no branding, or try and just completely go the other way and see how that fares for you. I always like to leave people with a little task to do at the end of an episode. So today I want you guys to go away and sketch or design on Canva a very basic mock-up of what you would want your branding or your logo to be. Then if you can get someone a bit more professional in the mix or get in touch with us, we'll be happy to help you along your journey. Thanks for listening to the Podcasters Podcast. I've been Louie, and I'll see you next time.